Hey guys, welcome to another VATSIM tutorial here on the AviationPro channel. In this video we're going to take a look at what simulators you can use to fly on VATSIM and what software you need in order to be able to fly on VATSIM. We're also going to take a look at some tools that are very handy for you as a pilot. Sounds interesting? Stay tuned. So guys, having the right simulator and software and tools is of course very important when flying on VATSIM. Now when it comes to simulators, basically all mainstream simulators will work with VATSIM. Think about X-Plane, FSX, FSX Team Edition and Prepared. As long as there's a pilot client available for your simulator, then you're able to use VATSIM. Because the way it works is that you start a flight in free mode or any non-multiplayer mode in your sim, and then you use a pilot client to connect to the VATSIM network. So it's a separate program. So guys, let's take a look at these pilot clients. In the last video I kind of already showed you where to get all the software for pilots. Just go to the VATSIM website, go to the pilot section and click on software. Okay, so here you have all the pilot clients that are available. So again, all mainstream simulators basically work. vPilot is for FSX and Prepared users, and if you're using those simulators, I would highly recommend to actually use this pilot client because it's most up to date. It's very easy to use, and it's in general it's the most supported platform currently for VATSIM. If you're using older simulators, for example FS 2004 or FS 2002 even, then there are also pilot clients available like Squawkbox and FSN. Those are not often used anymore. Squawkbox will kind of work the same as vPilot. FSN is a bit more complicated, but just so you know that these options are out there. Okay. Now, if you're using X-Plane, then there's also a program called X-Squawkbox. Now, again, the basics are the same for all pilot clients, but I'm not an X-Plane user myself, so I would not be the right person to show you exactly how to use it or how to install it, simply because I can't really show you that. But just so you know that this website is here, okay? So let's load it up, take a look at it quickly. So you can download it here from this website. There's a good amount of information here as well, like an FAQ, so you can see how to set up the voice for this pilot client, how to do some model matching, things like that. Okay, it's probably a bit more complicated than just installing vPilot and running it alongside FSX or Prepared, but I think you will be able to find out how this all works using the documentation here on their website. Okay, so just so you know, use X-Squawkbox for X-Plane. Okay, now going back to vPilot, here you can just download it as well. Go and click on the website, and then we have the vPilot website right here. You can download it by just clicking on this link. You can review some of the features that come with vPilot. It's very easy to use, and there's a good amount of documentation that will help you out to set it up properly. Okay, so I will just show you the basics in the next video where we can actually connect to the VATSIM network. But if you want to already find out what everything means, you can just review the documentation here. It's a good website, okay? And there's also a link to the VATSIM forums where you can get help. And of course, people are very friendly here that will probably help you out. So if you have any issue, just search on this forum if maybe someone has already encountered your issue and maybe there's already a solution for it. And otherwise, create a topic yourself. Using your new VATSIM account, you should also be able to log in on the VATSIM forums, and then you can ask your questions, okay? So once you've installed vPilot, just give it a run. There we go. There's a vPilot running. It asks you to select your current simulator, so make sure you select the simulators you use. So for me, it will be Prepared version 4. Because it's going to use that to, for example, scan models in your aircraft folder that can be used for model matching. I'm going to take a look at that again in the next video. And it's going to be important to make sure that you connect to the correct simulator when you're running, okay? So just select your simulator right here. And this is a vPilot. So again, it's just a separate program. Yeah, you can configure it. We'll take a look at that in the next video. But anyways, just a separate program, as you can see, that you can run alongside your simulator to connect to the VATSIM network. As you can see, it will try to connect to your simulator automatically, but that doesn't mean that you're connected to VATSIM yet. No, you actually have to click this connect button and then fill in some information to connect. But again, we'll show you that in the next video, so stay tuned for that. But at least you know now
how to and where to find this pilot client. And this is the main tool that you need, okay? So you need the pilot client to connect to the VATSIM network. You're not using the multiplayer mode. You just start a flight in free flight mode, at the gate, not on an active runway. I already want to mention that before, and not on an active runway. You start at a gate or any other stand or a general aviation platform, whatever, and then you connect to the VATSIM network using your pilot client, okay?
Okay guys, so far for the pilot client. So as you can see, that's the main add-on that you need. Basically, if you have a pilot client and if you have a simulator, you can go on VATSIM. But I would hold off with flying because there are some other software that I want to discuss, talking about add-on airplanes and weather add-ons, things like that. So let's take a look at those other tools that are really handy when flying on VATSIM.
So the first type of software I want to discuss is add-on aircraft, okay? Now, it really depends a little bit on what type of flying you want to do on VATSIM, okay? By default, your simulator will come with some default airplanes, mostly general aviation airplanes, or maybe some more advanced airplanes, like in Prepared you have some fighter jets, and maybe in FSX you have a default Boeing 737 or default Airbus. Now, in my opinion, if you're flying general aviation aircraft, and if that's your goal on VATSIM, the default aircraft are actually pretty nice. They're not that advanced. You don't need a lot of advanced navigation systems anyway, because you're mostly going to be using visual references to fly in the virtual skies. But if you're going to fly airliners from A to B, which is probably the most popular form of flight simming on the VATSIM network, where you really fly a route from one airport to another using an airliner, then having an add-on aircraft is quite a must-have, okay? You might wonder why, okay? Can I not just use the default Boeing 737 and just, fly that route using that aircraft? Well, technically you'll probably be able to, but it's going to be very difficult, okay? The thing about flying on VATSIM is that real-world procedures are used, okay? So air traffic controllers will expect you to fly so-called RNAV routes, okay? So flying via airways, via waypoints, and that you're actually be able to fly a standard instrument departure, which will take you from the airport to your first waypoint on your route. And then they also expect you to be able to fly a standard terminal arrival route, or a STAR, which takes you from the end of your route to basically the runway at the airport, okay? So those are very complex navigation methods, and using the default GPS systems of Flight Simulator, that's not really possible to perform, and it's not very realistic either. You're gonna have to somehow enter all those waypoints of your standard instrument departure by hand, and it's not what the real-world pilots use either. They use so-called flight management systems, where they really can select standard instrument departures, really calculate the route and calculate the performance of the aircraft. They can really accurately calculate what the climb profile will be. Moreover, a lot of routes, SIDs and STARs contain a lot of speed and altitude restrictions, and following them accurately with the default GPS system simply doesn't work. You really need a flight management system for that. So having such flight management system is actually very, very important in my opinion, especially if you're going to do airliner flights. Now again, if you're just going to want to fly VFR aircraft using visual flight rules, or maybe some basic IFR going from VOR to VOR station, then the general aviation airplanes will do. But if you're going to fly complex routes, and if you're going to fly airliners, I would highly, highly recommend to get an add-on aircraft, okay? You don't need many. I mean, just pick your favorite one. There are some really good add-ons out there that give a very realistic portrayal of the real aircraft. Think about PMDG, probably one of the most well-known developers for add-ons for FSX and Prepared, okay? They have the 737, the 777, the 747, and these aircraft are recreated and designed with a high degree of accuracy to the real aircraft and with a high degree of realism. Again, this might scare you away, but you will find out, if you learn how to use the flight management system and you see all the procedures that are used on VATSIM, actually those things go hand in hand again, You will see that it actually makes sense to use the flight management system, and the air traffic controllers, will guide you through the virtual skies, and by using your flight management system, it actually will make more sense, okay? So just keep that in mind. And of course, there are other alternatives, okay? It doesn't need to be in PMDG aircraft. You can also think about some other aircraft that are not as detailed, but provide the same functions. Think about level D simulations or the quality wings aircraft, for example, okay? Those are probably a little bit less pricey, also a little bit less realistic, but the same navigation systems are there. So an FMC, a flight management system, flight management computer, with basic systems like LNAV for lateral navigation and VNAV for vertical navigation, things like that, okay? Because you will not be able to just use heading mode and level change mode in VATSIM, okay? Air traffic controllers really expect you to fly via airways and via waypoints and via SIDS and stars, okay? So please keep that in mind. And just start with one add-on aircraft. Explore that aircraft before you go on VATSIM and learn how to use it, and then go on VATSIM, and you will see that all the pieces of the puzzle will fall into place, basically, okay? Another type of important add-on is add-on scenery. Now, you might imagine that if you're using an old simulator like FS 2004, over time airports will have changed, okay? If you're using newer simulators like FSX Team Edition or Prepared, the airports will probably be a bit more accurate to the real world. But, airports are dynamic, they change over time. And that's why it's good to have some add-on airports, okay? There are both payware and freeware options. But having a payware airport not only enhances the look and the realism of the airport you fly to or from, but it will also make sure that it's more accurate to the real-world airport at that time point, and that it's more accurate to the charge. Because if you're flying on VATSIM, for example, and if you're taxiing around at the airport and trying to find your gate, it's good to have a good scenery, because then you actually know how to find your gate, okay? And you don't have conflicting information between your up-to-date charge and your old scenery, okay? So please keep that in mind. There are a lot of payware and freeware options. For example, you can explore a website like simmarket.com or aerosoft.com, where you can find great sceneries for your simulator, okay? There are also freeware options, for example, probably the most famous website in the flight simulation community on VATSIM. There's a great library out there with a lot of add-ons as well, also freeware add-on aircraft or scenery for your simulator. So make sure you give that a good look. And just the general message here is make sure that your airport is up to date. It will make your flying easier, and it will make sure that you don't run into trouble when you're taxiing at the airport. So another type of add-on that will really enhance your VATSIM experience is a weather add-on. Of course, weather is very important for flying and in flight simulation. It really enhances your experiences in general, and it really affects flights in many ways. So weather is very important. And the thing about VATSIM is that the controllers will also use real-world weather, okay, and current weather. So they will actually be able to see the matter at their airport, and that matter is actually the real matter that is current for the real airport at that time, okay? So it's important for you as a pilot to also use real-world weather if you can. Now again, here there are some freeware and payware options. I would highly recommend one payware option, that is Active Sky. Active Sky is probably the one add-on that is most popular in the flight sim community. It really does a great job at portraying real-world weather with a high degree of accuracy. And there's been a lot of development going on in that add-on in recent years. It's available still for FS 2004 and Prepared and things like that. And it's just a great add-on. It really does a great job at accurately displaying the weather. And it also has functions like providing a weather radar in your simulator, which is of course great, because then you can do things like avoiding weather. But the main point about weather add-ons is that it will really enhance your experience, and of course it's very important as well if you're flying on VATSIM, because, for example, think about the situation when you're descending towards an airport and the controller will give you a QNH. The QNH is a barometric setting, so your altimeter setting. Now, if you're using default weather and your QNH in the sim is 1013, and your controller will give you a different QNH, which is higher or lower, your altitude will be incorrect, okay? So, those are very important things. Same for runway landing and taking off at runways, The air traffic controllers on VATSIM will determine the active runway based on the current wind conditions. So if you're taking off from runway 24 at Amsterdam, and the wind in the real world is indeed from 240 degrees, for example, but the wind in your simulator is like from 060 degrees, so a straight tailwind basically, then of course you're going to run into trouble a little bit, of course, and you know, your flight dynamics are way off from what your flight dynamics would be using a real-world weather situation. So keep that in mind. One of the freeware add-ons that is available is on this website. It's called FSX Weather. So it's just a weather engine for Microsoft Flight Simulator X and prepared version 2 and 3. So it's a freeware option. It will probably do a pretty good job at portraying some basic weather as well. Okay, so make sure you check out that website if you want to find out more. Now, if you're using X-Plane, there are probably also some other options. I just did a quick Google search on this, to be honest. There's something called SkyMax Pro, which is a weather rendering engine for X-Plane, and it comes also with a real-world weather connector. So you can probably have some real-world weather in X-Plane as well. So make sure you check those kind of add-ons out. A simple Google search will probably get you to some add-ons, maybe some freeware as well, okay? But again, I don't use X-Plane, so I'm probably not the right person to go too deep into this. So just so you know that there are some options available. Now, in flight simulation and in aviation in general, preparation is key, and that's where a flight planning tool comes in. Now, luckily, there are also some options here available as well. A great freeware option for flight planning tool, which we will explore later when we're going to discuss flight planning in this VATSIM tutorial series. A great freeware tool is SimBrief. Go to the website simbrief.com, and you can create an account there, and you can use that website to create flight plans quite accurately. Okay, it's a pretty good website. Okay. Another option you might think about is PFBX. This is also a great flight planning utility that will help you out to create flight plans with a high degree of realism, and in combination with an add-on aircraft like the PMDG 737, you can get some really accurate performance calculations. And basically it allows you to find great routes, accurate routes, and routes that are valid. In general, it's just quite a must-have if you're really into advanced flight simulation. But if you're just starting on VATSIM, SimBrief will do, and it's actually a great flight planning tool. So the add-ons and software that I mentioned thus far are probably more of the important add-ons that you want to have when flying on VATSIM. The ones that I'm going to mention now are of less importance, but are just great to have to make your life on the VATSIM network easier and more realistic. First of all, there's GSX, a pushback utility. It's a great utility which will help you to not only push back, but also do things like boarding, deboarding. There are some great animations around your aircraft, and it will also give you a marshaller, for example, to go and dock at the gate. But the pushback function is quite handy because on VATSIM, air traffic controllers might instruct you to push back in a certain direction. And using the default pushback feature in your flight simulator, this is kind of hard. Usually, you have some kind of combination of keys like Shift plus P, which will push you back straight, and then maybe the 1 and 2 key to push you back to the left and to the right, but it's not really accurate. And this pushback utility will do that for you. And I think it's a great add-on to have so that you push back in the right direction and right on the taxi line where you're gonna taxi from. Okay, so next it's time to discuss model matching, and model matching is quite a big topic in VATSIM, because of course you want to make sure that the aircraft that people fly, the other people on the VATSIM network, are displayed correctly in your sim. In order to do that, you need some kind of AI package. So the way it works, in your sim, you turn off AI traffic. Of course, you don't want those robot aircraft or artificial intelligence aircraft to interfere with the traffic that you see on VATSIM. But why you need an AI package is because you need the models of that AI package, because those models can be used for model matching. And this model matching is basically a way to portray your aircraft correctly. So it will the way it works, it will kind of scan, okay, what call sign does the other pilot use? What aircraft does the other pilot use? Based on that information, what model is most appropriate to display in the simulator, okay? Now, the last add-on or tool that I want to mention in this part of the video is Servinfo or Vatspy. There are links in the description, as for all the other add-ons that I mentioned so far in this video. Basically, such tools allow you to view the air traffic control and pilot activity on the VATSIM network. So, for example, there's a VATSIM button right here, and I can click on the map, to check out the activity. Now it's not busy in Europe. As you can see, it's almost 12 o'clock. Everybody is working or studying or whatever. So it's not very busy right now. But the main point is that you can kind of look, okay, where is there ATC? Where can I fly right now with ATC? For example, if I would make a flight in Iceland right now, there would be some good amount of ATC because the radar controller is online. And you can just see which pilots are online and click on the flight to view more information, okay? So quite a handy tool. The way I also use it is, for example, to view bookings. I can click on this button, Eurobook. I can see, okay, what air traffic control will be there today. And based on that, I can kind of, determine what kind of flight I'm going to make tonight. For example, okay, looks like Berlin is going to be online. I want to make a 1 hour flight, so maybe flying to Zurich is a great option, okay? So quite a handy tool, as you can see, to view bookings and current ATC activity. And another useful function in such tool is that you can ping the servers, okay? So if you connect to VATSIM, you can kind of see, okay, which service is best to connect to. Now all these servers are connected with each other. As you can see, I click this button and now it's going to ping all the servers. So you don't have to worry if you connect to a San Francisco server, for example, that you're not going to see traffic which is connected to the Germany server. No, all those servers are connected with each other, but it's good to pick a server which is closest to you and which you have the lowest ping, okay? That will make sure that your connection is very stable and you don't have a lag when you're viewing aircraft. So in my example, I live in the Netherlands, and it seems that I get the lowest ping at the UK1 server. So when I connect to VATSIM, I will pick that server. We're gonna show you that in the next video. But just so you know that you can view all those servers and all those pings, and of course it makes sense to pick at least a country which is closest to you. So I would either pick the UK or Germany, and I would not pick Canada because that's a server is further away, so the ping is going to be higher, as you can see. Especially for Australia, the ping is very high, okay? So just make sure you pick the server with the lowest ping, and using a tool like Servinfo, you can view that information. So it's pretty neat.
So those are kind of the software and tools that you need to fly on VATSIM. Of course, you can already use your Bear simulator just with a pilot client to fly on VATSIM, but these tools are very useful, I think, and having an add-on airplane, as I said, is very useful when flying on the VATSIM network. So make sure you give it some thought. You don't have to buy a huge amount of add-ons or add-on airplanes, for example. Just stay with one, and that could already work, but it will really enhance your flight simulation experience, and it goes hand in hand with the real-world procedures that you will find to be used on VATSIM. So apart from these tools that you can install on your PC, there are also some tools available for your phone or maybe your tablet, like your iPad or your iPhone. So let's take a look at some of those.
So similarly to Servinfo and Vatspy, there's a great tool available for iOS devices. It's called VatMap, and basically it also shows you a map with the current ATC activity and pilots that are online. It allows you to have a friend list so you can see when or where your friend is flying on the VATSIM network. And it's just a handy tool to have next to you when you're flying using your PC, so you don't have to alt-tab to Servinfo, for example. You can just have it next to you so you can see where you're flying, and maybe also kind of determine the traffic situation when there are no controllers online, okay? So you can kind of see, okay, there's another aircraft inbound at this airport, and I'm landing here as well within 10 minutes, so maybe I should take care of it and let the other pilot know via Unicom that I'm on final for the runway, for example, okay? So really handy tool to have next to you. Another app that I want to mention, and again, there are probably similar apps available for both iOS and Android devices, is called Remote Flight Com. And basically this app allows you to control the radios in your flight simulator using your phone. And actually this is very easy because if you're flying, you don't really want to look down at the radio stack and use your mouse in the virtual cockpit to tune the radios. No, actually using your own finger on your phone and tuning it that way makes it a lot easier. So tuning it from your home cockpit, okay? So give that app a review. It's quite handy to have when you're flying on VATSIM, because especially during events you're going to do a lot of frequency switching. So this will make your life a little bit easier.
So guys, congratulations. You should now have a pretty good idea of what tools and software is handy and required when flying on VATSIM. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at how to actually connect to the VATSIM network. I'm going to be showing you that using vPilot in prepared version 4, but the process should be pretty similar for other pilot clients. And in that video, we're also going to take a look a little bit at ATC availability and the ATC structure and how to tune radios. Because when you connect to VATSIM, you might want to do some observing by parking at the stand and tuning in a radio, so you can kind of get an idea of what the radios on VATSIM sound like, and to actually hear an air traffic controller and pilots communicate with each other. And of course, we're not actually going to fly yet because we have not covered anything about that yet in this tutorial series, but it's good to do some observing anyways. So guys, thanks for watching this VATSIM tutorial here on the AviationPro channel. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the AviationPro channel, make sure you give this video a like and check out the description for different ways of supporting the AviationPro channel. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one.